Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome to another Mortal Kombat 11 video. Now today I wanted to talk about a rather interesting topic that came across my mind, and that is obviously from the title here, can Armageddon still happen? Well, in short, yes, it is actually indeed very possible, because despite Shao Kahn being defeated in MK9 and seemingly somewhat killed off, the new timeline is definitely following suit to that of the old, meaning that the events in Mortal Kombat 11 that transpire may ultimately lead up to Armageddon. But let's actually go into a little bit more detail and talk about how this is actually possible. Now first off, let's actually talk about what is Mortal Kombat Armageddon, what is the Pyramid of Argos, and what really was the purpose of Armageddon. Because seeing as we're in like a new rebooted timeline, there'll most likely be individuals who did miss out on the 3D games. So allow me to elaborate on the whole purpose of the Pyramid of Argos. We need to go very far back in time, back to when Edenia was still a realm that lived in relative peace, and really one where the Edenian gods were still alive. So from what you can tell, we're going to be talking about Argus here, the father of Taven, Dagon, and Rain. Now Argus was the strongest of the Edenian gods, but despite this, he received visions of what he saw was the apocalypse. With each installment in the series, it would bring new fighters and characters to the franchise, and understandably, over the course of time, said fighters would become much stronger, and in many cases would cause more destruction than good. So Argus knew that this would inevitably lead to the realms being torn apart. Worried that these visions would come to fruition, Argus would report to the Elder Gods about the situation, and they told him that it was ultimately his decision to do what he believed was right. Now the Edenian god didn't want this situation to happen at all, and thus decided that he would kill every single combatant before Armageddon could even happen. However, he was convinced by his wife, who told him that not every single individual here would be a villain, and some did deserve the opportunity to live their lives. So it's here where he came up with the idea of the Pyramid of Argos, where he'd create a powerful being known as Blaze to guard the top, so that one day one of his sons, Taven and Dagon, would be able to challenge his power and absorb Blaze, which would in turn take away all of the powers of the combatants around the pyramid, as the Pyramid of Argos is said to be the final destined battleground for all the combatants. Now I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with what happens at the end of that timeline. Neither Taven or Dagon are able to acquire Blaze's power, and instead it falls into the hands of Shao Kahn, who ultimately brings on the end himself, thus somewhat proving that Argus was right. But how does this exactly stack up in the new timeline? Because Shao Kahn is somewhat dead. I'm saying that with massive air quotes because it's Mortal Kombat and no one ever really dies properly, but as of right now he is out of the picture. But it does seem like this prophecy is going to come to fruition. I think it's quite safe to say that it will function something very similar to like that of, let's say, Ragnarok, an event that happens in Norse mythology that is said to be the end of days. Now I don't mean something like Raiden the Thunder God is going to battle a giant version of Reptile. What I mean by something that's very similar to the events of Ragnarok is the fact that it's an event that's set in time that is seemingly solid in stone. It's a prophecy that's yet to come to fruition, and for any of you that are kind of aware of Norse mythology, you'll know that Ragnarok transpires in a sequence of events. In Norse mythology, the events of Ragnarok begin when Baldur is killed by Loki. Now if we're using this as an example and translating it over into the Mortal Kombat universe, this actually happens when Dagon is actually released from his chamber before Taven is, and this will be the first link in a chain of events that will eventually lead up to Armageddon. Now no, I'm not saying Armageddon itself is a reflection of Ragnarok, but I'm using it as a good example, as Norse mythology itself has been given a lot of exposure recently, with the Marvel films involving Thor, as well as the new God of War game jumping into Norse mythology. Now in the new timeline, how deep are we into these events? Well, you'd all be surprised to learn that the first link has been broken. In the Mortal Kombat X comic books, we see that Dagon has been revived much earlier than his brother, and that Dagon himself is in full control of the Red Dragon clan, asserting his power and dominance. So in many ways it's already quite similar to the original timeline, but that's not quite the end of it. Dagon has already somewhat asserted his position as a villain in the universe, as he's very intertwined with Kenshi and Takeda, since in the prequel sequence of the comics, we learn that Kenshi was assigned the mission of infiltrating the Red Dragons in order to learn about their secrets. Now he was caught out and a bounty was put on his head, and really due to this, it put a target on not only Kenshi but everyone that was kind of related to him. This resulted in Takeda's mother's death and the attempted murder of the two. Now the reason why I'm bringing up Kenshi and Takeda now is because Dagon is the main driving force for as to why the two are working together, because before this point in time, Takeda absolutely hated his father, seeing as Kenshi dropped him at the Shiraryu temple to be trained by Hanzo and simply just disappeared after that point. Of course, this is all water under under the bridge now, as the two are working together for the sole reason of taking down the red dragons and killing Dagon for what he did to Su-Chin. So really, this is a very personal story between these two characters that I see kind of getting resolved if they get their hands on Dagon. Now of course we do have to talk about this because it is quite important to what we will see in the future, the arcade ladder endings. Now not every single one of these are kind of in stone, but when the endings do seem to intertwine and give us a rough idea of what we can see in the future, then we have a rough idea of where a next particular story or game is heading. In MKX it's strongly hinted that Raiden will be locking horns with Outworld quite a lot, as there are multiple different arcade ladder endings that hint at this. But if we also look at Kenshi's and Takeda's ending, we see that they're very intertwined with hunting down the red dragons, with even Kenshi supposedly killing Dagon in one of them, which may be something we see in the future. But one of the most important things we do see here is that the two are able to awaken Taven, which is much earlier in this new timeline than in the old one, if we're excluding the massive time gap between MK9 to MKX, as a 17-year gap doesn't happen in the original timeline, and MK11 is kind of set to take place where Deadly Alliance and Deception happen, if we are just going by the games. But I am extremely interested to see what they do with the two here. With Taven being revived early, does that mean the events of Armageddon will happen sooner? Does the death of Dagon actually prevent this? Well, no, not really. Although the two are destined to defeat Blaze, and somewhat save the realms by doing so, you don't necessarily need these two characters to do it. If the beginning of Mortal Kombat 9 has taught us anything, is that nothing is guaranteed. Anyone is susceptible to defeating Blaze and absorbing his power, which could either bring an end to all the realms as we have seen, or possibly a better and brighter future. We don't quite know. The only thing that we can say for now though, is that Armageddon will most likely happen, because MK9 was a compressed version of the first 3 Mortal Kombat games, and MKX was essentially a new and very different take on Mortal Kombat 4. So the next installment is expected to be a new take on Deadly Alliance, or maybe a compressed version of Deadly Alliance and Deception. We just have to wait and see, because this thing that we get at the end of MKX is that Raiden will most likely be some kind of antagonist or anti-hero like figure, and if arcade ladder endings are anything to go by, then we may actually kind of stray away from the Deadly Alliance story arc. I'll actually be making a video on that in a few days time, so if you are interested, please do keep an eye out for that. Now down in the comments below, what do you feel about Armageddon? Do you think that will actually come to fruition? And who do you think out of all of the characters we've seen in this new rebooted timeline will be the one capable of defeating Blaze? Please comment down below, I'm interested to hear, and it would be kind of fun to just get a discussion going. But yeah, that more or less does wrap up the video guys. Before it does finish, I do want to say thank you to everyone for all of the Mortal Kombat 11 love recently. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I really do appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to watch my stuff and give me some positive feedback. You can definitely expect more videos in the future, and I hope you enjoy them just as much. Now before this video wraps up guys, if possible, let's try getting it to about 500 likes. It's a great way of helping out this channel since YouTube's ad system is broken as hell, so by giving it a thumbs up it helps out a ton. And if you would like to go the extra step, we also have a Patreon set up, and a link for that will be down in the description below. Anyway guys, as always, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I'll see you all next time.